Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Well, another stumbling block on the Parker here, fellas, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention on the floor. And it's not like I didn't notice these things before. I just didn't realize how crucial until you start looking things over and realizing how bad things are. But guys, I stuck a flashlight down in here this time, and I'm hoping it helps. But I don't know if it will show up on camera or not, but I wanted to show how much pitch is on the floor. It drops down like a ditch. The whole runner, both sides, it goes right down to where all you have is the width of the screwdriver right here, fellas, for the fuel to pile up and run. The rest of that runner right there is on such a slope. I don't know what they're thinking when they made this intake. I don't get it, because I have a Victor knockoff right here, and it's perfectly flat all the way up until it gets to the end of the runner right here. Then it kind of has a little bit of curvature to it where they slant the floor a tiny bit just to help make the turn right here. But this is pitched all the way through. And the reason being is because the way the floor is made. It has that beveled floor for the tunnel ram effect. That's what they were going for, I believe, on this. And this, of course, has the flat floor. And what I don't understand is that the Super Victor has the same type floor, but it's not all out of shape. It wouldn't be so bad if the floor wasn't so out of shape. It doesn't really show up on camera. This thing is nothing but high spots, low spots, high spots, low spots. It's all crooked all across it. And there's no consistency to this thing. It's just all over the place. And like I said, up inside the runner here, I don't know if you guys can tell or not just how much pitch is on it. How's the fuel going to break up when it's just being all piled and puddled up? So, that's been my main issue with this, guys. You know that. I talked to my son last night, and he finally told me why he didn't like the Parker intake so much. It wasn't just because of the fact that he didn't like how it performed. He took plug readings. And guess what, guys? Every runner that I've been worried about on this intake is every runner that had a problem on the plug reading. 1, 4, 5, and 8. Just like I said, the two center runners, or all 4, this one, this one, this one, and this one, all center runners, were no problem with the plug reading. Why would that be? Because it's getting all the fuel in the air. So, what I'm going to do, guys, I've been doing some thinking. I think what I'm going to do is stay on the same path as I am doing right now. I'm cutting this back more. I'm opening these way up. These are even more open than they look on camera, to be honest. Usually it's the opposite, but for some reason it's optical illusion or something. But what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to close this up with a spacer. So I'm going to have it where it's more open long ways like this, guys. I'm going to kind of close it off on the edges here. And what am I out? A spacer. That's one thing on a spacer, fellas. You can make a lot of power with them. Some cars call for it. Some guys run really well and they'll swear by a spacer. Other guys, well, I tried a spacer and it didn't work. well, it all depends on what combination you have, and all kinds of factors come involved in that with RPM and everything as far as carburetor size and how tall the plenum is and all that. So I'll do another segment on that sometime, but the main reason I'm putting a spacer on this, guys, because this is already good enough. This intake will probably be good enough for like 8,500 RPM. That's taking a stab at it. I think they're around 8 or 85 factory, so I know it's got to be good for at least that. So I'm worried about consistency, getting these runners to pull the same amount of air. Will I pull it off? I don't know, but I'm going to pull every trick off that I know to do it. Like I said, I think I'm going to have to address this floor. I think I'm just going to have to even maybe make a floor for this thing. I've been looking at a few things I have here to do that with, and I like to actually cut these back a little bit more down here and actually widen it, just to give a fair shake. I think the longer that fuel and the more even I can keep it on the floor, the weaker runners should have a chance to maybe pick it up. Am I right about that? I don't know. That's just my theory. Sometimes things are a theory, sometimes they're a fact. But it's not going to take a whole lot to address that issue. So I'm this far in it, so there's no sense backing out now. So, but I just thought I'd show you guys this. And one thing I did want to address, some of these Parkers, there's guys out there might have the Parker and say, well, I don't have all that problems with mine. And if they tell you that, they're going to probably be right, because the original Parkers, I don't remember having these problems, unless I never really came across anybody saying they had a problem with them. Matter of fact, they said that they outran the Victor intakes. Then again, that comes down to combination. One guy's going to say that, another guy's going to say they didn't like it. So, but what I'm getting back to, I got off track a little bit. What my point was is that some of them are Chinese, and the original Parkers were made right here in the U.S. And I think that's a factor. I think that the original Parkers had a better way about them as far as the floor and stuff, because I never heard anybody talking about all these nightmares that I'm running across on this intake. Because to me, when you do an intake, you do things to correct it, but you shouldn't have to correct everything about it. To me, this intake's just been a weak leg in the whole thing. But we'll see what happens with it, guys. I'm going to hammer at it, and we're going to see if I can make it better. And I will know that by when I put it on the engine, by taking the plug readings and seeing if they're any better. And that's what I go by. I don't go by the airflow numbers or anything like that. Some guys can do it that way, but I prefer not to do things that way. You guys know my theories on that stuff. But anyway, fellas, on a good note, I got a camera. Now I got to figure out how to use it. So I might be able to give you guys a little bit better quality video. And I got to give thanks to my nephew. He went through the trouble of doing that for me. I was just looking at it. It's in the house. I got it today. And I have a lot to figure out on it, because I'm not the most up-to-date guys when it comes to electronics. I have enough trouble with this phone, so. But anyway, fellas, I hope this might be something that you can bring attention to your own intake. If you have one of these, and say, I want to check that out and see if yours is that bad. And that's why I do this segment right here, fellas, so much, because I don't want to wear you guys out with a Parker intake, but it has to do with other intakes having these same problems. I just never saw an intake out of all the ones I've done that's this messed up. That's just what I've seen. You guys might have seen problems with yours. I don't know. if you have had one of these and say, yeah, I had to correct it myself. There's one guy I was talking to for a while. He said he knew all about these Parkers, so evidently he might have known something I didn't know. He was telling me a few things about them, but we didn't get into a whole big conversation about it. But I could tell that guy knew where the weak spots were on these intakes. And another thing I want to address, guys, is that one of my subscribers has a dual plane, and he said he's going to make it into a single plane. And sometimes opening the plenum up will help, but most of the time, the problems with a dual plane is through the intake. Like you have the floor higher on one side than the other side. So unless you're just trying to get a little extra plenum volume for that reason only, then it's not really going to be in your best interest, especially if you're trying to just make a little bit more power. Because there's other intakes out there, like you could put a Victor Jr. on or an accelerator. And an accelerator will make almost the same power. We've experimented with that a little bit. The only thing I don't like about them is the same deal, is that they're small, very small in the plenum too, and they're restricted. So if you have an engine that's calling for like 400 or 500 horsepower, then they're a little small. So you're better off with a Victor Jr. or a Super Victor, depending on how much compression. Do your math, guys. Check around when you comes to an intake, especially if you have to buy one and you're not fortunate enough to have a couple laying around and you have to depend on that one intake. I mean, nobody wants to spend money over and over again, but the thing about an intake, you can usually find them used, and they're usually most of the time okay if nobody's hogged them out or did anything to them. We picked up this one used, and I think we even might have bought this one used. Come think about it, guys. I'm not sure. I can't remember if my son bought this new or used. I don't want to say the wrong thing and then have to retract. So, it's been a long time. We're talking about 5-6 years ago, maybe 7 even. Time flies, guys. But anyway, fellas, like I said, I just wanted to bring this to you. And I'm going to keep hammering at it. I don't know if you guys can see this too, how high the peak is in the middle. And it either rolls one way, real steep on one side, and then up here it will roll on the other side. It's just so inconsistent, guys. It's like I just picture that air and fuel coming in like, oh, which way do I go? Well, which way do I chatter? Oh, which way, what rudder? That's how I picture this, guys. That sounds kind of crazy. And that's just how I picture this when I see a mess like this. So, but don't be afraid to give me your opinion on this, guys. There might be somebody watching this that said, I had that same problem and this is what I did to it. And I am really open to suggestions. One thing I don't do is pretend to know everything, guys. I just do what I do and try to go on the right path. And once I do all this work to it, will I be sorry if it doesn't work? No, it'll just be hours I put into something. But it'll be something that I learned. And that's one way of looking at when you do stuff like this, guys. Don't get upset if you do something and it doesn't work out for your best interest. Because it's always going to be a learning experience one way or another. So I just thought I'd throw that in while I'm doing this. Words of wisdom. Never hurts to kind of put your scenarios out there and see what kind of feedback you get from other people. Like I said, I got a lot of smart guys on this channel, so I leave sometimes knowing more than what I did when I started, when I read your guys' comments. So I appreciate it all the time, guys. All right, fellas, have a good night and take care.